Well, we are your station for safety. Here in Texas, temperatures can get scorching, so leaving a child in the backseat for even a few minutes can be dangerous. Joining me this morning to talk more about that, we're talking to Dr. Benedict Ifedi with Memorial Hermann Medical Group in Katy. This is an important reminder, and everyone thinks, oh, it'll never happen to me, but unfortunately it does happen every year, doesn't it? So how dangerous is it to leave a child or a pet in a car, even for a few minutes?
Yeah. Good morning, Melissa. Yeah, it's very dangerous. So temperatures in a car could rise 20 degrees in a span of 10 minutes. And with the triple digit temperatures that we see in Houston, that can be fatal. You can get heat stroke at a temperature of 104, where you start to have potential for seizures, heart attack, sweating, elevated heart rate, and at a temperature of 107, body temperature that is, that can be fatal. So it can be really tragic.
Oh, it's just terrible to think about, and it's so hard to report this. But we need to talk about maybe what any of those symptoms might look like leading up to that. If you come back and your child is really hot, what would that look like if your child is overheating?
Yeah, so a few things you can see is the child can be confused, they're sweating, they look really fatigued, they may be hallucinating, seeing things or hearing things that aren't necessarily there. They may have feeling of their heart beating fast or just a funny feeling in their chest. So if you see any of those signs, that's a sign that things can be very critical. And if you're a bystander, the important thing is to call 911 immediately.
It seems like in a lot of the deadly situations, it's when a parent, maybe they're not the typical caretaker to take and drop the child off at child care, and they just forget that their baby is in the back seat. Do you have any reminders for parents, some way they can make sure, especially if this isn't their usual route, that they won't forget about that child in the back seat?
Yeah, one of the biggest tips, especially if that isn't your normal routine, is to put some type of memento. So put a gym bag in the back seat, a purse, even your cell phone, just so you know that's something you're going to grab before you walk out of the car, and you'll reach for it and remember that you have a child that's very important in the back seat. And one of the acronyms that I often will kind of promote is park, look, lock. So park your car, look around the entire car, front seat, back seat, and then make sure you lock your car when you leave.
Important reminders for it all. And again, you think that it's not going to happen to you, and you just realize that all you have to do is watch the news for a minute and realize it happens, and that's why you need to do that perhaps every time. Now, let's change the situation and change the role if you're perhaps in a parking lot and you see a child in the back seat of a hot car. What do you suggest somebody does? Because you can kind of panic, you don't know what to do, you don't really want to break a window, you don't want to leave them there. I mean, it's really confusing about how to go about that.
No, it's very hectic. I think the first thing, just out of abundance of caution, is to call 911. If you're at a store or some place of business where that car is, try to walk in, tell them to announce that there's a kid in the car so they can announce it over the PA system, and hopefully that parent or caregiver will be able to go and open the car safely. While 911 is potentially en route, and should nobody come to the car, if you can safely break into the car, especially if the child is in distress, and that would be the next step.
And then at what point do you know if you should try to administer help yourself or get to a doctor or call 911? Is that going to be one of those things where it's pretty obvious about what the next step needs to be?
For sure, yeah. I think, when you see that child, especially if they're just looking tired, if they're asleep, if they're just sweating, like all get out, those are signs where, call 911. If you have the ability to administer basic CPR with chest compressions, if it looks like they're not responsive, I would go ahead and get that started. But it'll be pretty obvious, just because that temperature change that can happen in a hot car, it happens so quickly. And one of the interesting statistics is that children can heat 3 to 5 times faster than adults. So it happens very quickly.
I know our pets are the same way, both precious cargo to us all. Dr. Ifedi, thank you for taking time from Memorial Hermann to remind us about these things. It's something none of us wants to ever experience in our lifetime.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a beautiful day.